So it's another Spectrum podcast. It's Richie with you here from The Breakfast Show. And on the end of the line is Judith from Woolley Co Solicitors in the UK, I think. Is that right, Judith?
That's right. I'm in the grey UK.
Oh, is it grey? Or dark and dingy? What a shame.
No, we've had nothing but sun for about the last 3 months. But today it is actually rather grey and dingy.
Oh, well, don't worry. It'll come back. You've still got the summer to come yet, haven't you?
I hope so.
So tell me what's your job there then at Woolley Co? What are you doing?
Well, I am a solicitor, a family law solicitor. So Woolley Co are a company that do nothing but family law, and I'm one of, I think, 23 of us now who do nothing but family law, including divorce, children work, that sort of thing.
Blimey, I was going to say it sounds like popular. It sounds like you're all busy there doing all that.
We are quite busy. I mean, I have to say it's taken a bit of a downturn, the work, I think, along with most of us during the shutdown.
Yeah.
But we're beginning to see a spike now because people have kind of got used to the lockdown and probably getting a little bit fed up with each other. So it's actually exacerbating some of the problems, and we're beginning to see work pick up again now.
Oh, right, okay. So this is just in Spain or UK problem as well, or everywhere?
I think it's a problem everywhere. I mean, obviously, it's a global problem that we've got, and everybody is kind of reevaluating their positions. So, yes, it's definitely something we're seeing throughout, because the firm does a lot of international work. So we get inquiries both nationally in the UK and also from all around the world. And we're noticing that the same issue throughout, really.
So people must come to you with the same questions. You must get fed up of hearing it, and you obviously know what to say to people. So
yeah, the two most common problems, I suppose, are people come to us, obviously, if they're wanting to talk about and start divorce proceedings, which we can obviously give them advice with and help deal with them, deal with those sort of issues. But what I think the recurring theme that comes over and over again when people ring us initially is, if they can understand the process of divorce, but what I'm really, really worried about is what's going to happen about my money. And that is always the biggest issue and the biggest thing that they've got concerns about. So that's I think the first thing. And the second most common queries we get is in relation to problems that are arising about children. So if you've got a separating family, obviously you've got to work out how much time each of the parents is going to be able to spend with the children, and that's exacerbated in situations such as where we've got one parent living, say, in Spain, for instance, and one parent living in the UK, or anywhere else. You know, one parent living in New Zealand or one parent living in the UK.
That must be.
You can imagine the problems that causes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that must be a nightmare logistically.
Yes. It is, yes. When you get one which is coming in from New Zealand and the other parent is in the UK, you know you've got some problems there. But obviously, you know, it's a fairly common problem. We've got international families; it's on the increase, and so we've got parents from all over the world, often in different continents. So that's a tricky problem, and that's one that crops up quite a lot.
What's this thing then with the video hearings you can do and all that sort of stuff? Is that like a new thing at the moment?
It's not new, but we're all getting a lot better at it quite quickly, as you can imagine. It's always been there, really. And again, I mean, harping back to the point I just made, where you've got parents in different countries, certainly, it can be a real problem. And so if you've got a hearing which is maybe only an hour long or a couple of hours long, or it could be a 2 or 3 day hearing, obviously a parent who is abroad does not necessarily want to have to travel over to the UK to deal with that hearing. And so there's always been the facility to join in that party via a video link to the court. I've had varying experience with it myself, I have to say. It's not the easiest thing to do because of the drop-in links and the drop-in internet and the interruptions, that sort of thing. The technical issues can sometimes be a problem. And the other issue, I suppose, is there's nothing like having somebody there in person, face-to-face, to actually deal with a court hearing. But that aside, it works, and it works very well. But during the shutdown, of course, the courts immediately closed. We had all of these hearings to deal with, and the question arose with everybody, how do we deal with this? I mean, in the first instance, what the court did is actually adjourn a lot of hearings out and said, look, we just don't have the people here to deal with them, and so you're going to have to wait, which was okay in the short term. But they then very quickly got their kind of act into gear and made sure that we can either deal with hearings by way of telephone hearings, so it's perfectly possible to join in parties, their lawyers, their barristers, the judge on telephone hearings, and that's been quite successful. And we're getting better and better at video hearings. And I think what what we're all finding is that the longer and more complex the hearing, where we may be having to have evidence from parties, it is far better to deal with it by way of a video than it is by telephone. The logistics of telephone hearing is difficult, and the subtleties of hearing evidence is much easier or much better served by video links, because you can see people's body language and their faces, and they can see yours, and that really helps. So we're getting better. Almost day by day, you're finding that video links are improving.
You're doing well on this one, I've got to tell you.
Well, we're getting used to it. We're getting good at it.
You are getting good. Got a job on radio. Listen, when you get you must get some really difficult ones, separations and divorces and stuff. And a lot of it's all to do with money, isn't it? And I know, and the kids, and I've been through it, so I know myself. And it is a nightmare, I know. And do you ever get ones where it just goes on, or do you actually put a stop to it and just go, no, look, how do you deal with things like that? Is it difficult for both sides, or just sort of cut it to the quick a little bit and sort it out?
No, I mean, it's always difficult. It's always difficult. I mean, we as lawyers are easier. We'll find it easier to look at it objectively, but parties quite understandably can't. It's a very, very emotive subject, and you have to tread your way carefully through it. Everybody's got very strong views. Everybody's protective of their financial position, and it's trying to find a solution that is fair for both parties and meets both parties' needs, which is not necessarily something that's going to make either of them particularly happy. You're trying to divide up finances that they've built up jointly over many years, and you're trying then to split them down in as fair a way as possible. And there are strong opinions and strong views. So yes, cases do go on. They go on for very long periods of time, often for months, sometimes even years. But that's obviously something we try to cut through as much as possible, not least because the longer it goes on, the more it's going to cost the parties of their hard-earned money.
In Spain, is it very difficult with all this? Is it easier in England to do this?
It doesn't make any difference to us, quite frankly. I mean, we've always dealt with a lot of people in Spain, and what a lot of people in Spain don't realise is that if they have the correct connection with England, they can use English jurisdiction to start their divorce proceedings, and a lot of them do. And that really doesn't make any difference to us whatsoever. It doesn't matter that we're not there. It doesn't matter that they're not in the UK. It's perfectly possible to start divorce proceedings in this country, provided that certain boxes are ticked. And we deal with it in exactly the same way as we would with a national case. Again, I suppose the difficulty comes where you've got court hearings, and yes, people do sometimes obviously need to come across from Spain to deal with court hearings, but 9 times out of 10 we can deal with it remotely via video, as I've already explained. A lot of people who live abroad do not realise, they naturally assume if you're living in Spain, you're living in France, you're living in Uzbekistan, you have to use that jurisdiction, and that is not the case. And that often comes as a huge relief to people for various reasons. I mean, not least because they're more familiar with this country, this culture, this language, particularly in a quite technical, where they're involved in a technical process such as divorce, but also because there can be very great benefits sometimes in issuing in England rather than in the country in which they live. The flip side is also true, I have to say.
Yeah.
So you should never naturally assume that this is the right place to do it. And our advice with anybody who is living in a different country always has to be, yes, we can tell you about how your case would be dealt with in the English court, but you also need to get some advice from lawyers in your own jurisdiction to find out how they would deal with it, because there may be distinct advantages in using one or the other jurisdiction. So that's always, kind of the day one, the conversation I have with a client from a different jurisdiction.
People come to you and they've got problems, obviously, and so obviously that's how it starts. So when people call you normally, what do they just say you that I want a divorce and that's it, or do you have to go through the process of finding out what's happened, or do you actually get involved with all that? Or
yes, and I think I do, because when people ring me, they often don't know what to say. It's quite a scary thing. They've been through all sorts of processes in their own mind before they've even picked up the phone to me. And they're often very nervous. They're often very scared. It takes them a long time to get there. And my own approach, I have to say, is just talk to me. Tell me about what your situation is, and I will then steer them into where they want to go and need to go. But yes, they're going to talk to me about divorce, but sometimes they don't even mention the things that are really concerning them, which is, how am I going to live? How am I going to have an income?
Yeah.
Where am I going to live? And if I start talking to them generally about their situation, then it can be really helpful for them to voice their concerns and for me to give them a bit of a steer about the things they certainly need to think about and what we need to be working towards.
Yeah.
It tends to be the same every time. That conversation it starts in a certain way. They don't know what they're actually asking, but by the time we're finished, very frequently they're sort of saying, that's great, I've got a much better idea now where I am and what I need to do and some decisions I need to make.
Yeah, puts them at ease a little bit, I guess. Yeah, good. Okay,
absolutely.
So you're a big company. You do all sorts of other things, I'm sure, as well. But we're just talking about obviously divorce and things to do with that. So if people want to contact you, what do they do? How do they do they look at your website? Can they do that first before they call you? And is there a page there which will direct them or help them?
Yes, there's lots of pages there that give them all sorts of information and help. And yes, they can directly contact us. They can directly contact me via telephone or my email, or they can directly contact our sort of central part of our website to raise a question or ask for a call back from one of our lawyers to talk to them and give them some advice.
Okay.
So yes, we've got a good website presence.
Go on then. So what's the website first?
Well, we've got a special website for people in Spain, which is called costadivorce.com, and you can contact us from there. All of our details, all of our email addresses on there.
Judith from Woolley Co Solicitors, thank you so much for talking to us. It's been great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Cheers.